Well, some of the concerns about inflation have been expressed up on Capitol Hill by senators this week. And so we turn to one of those senators. That's Republican Senator Shelley Moore Capito of West Virginia. Senator, thank you so much for being back with us. Where are you on inflation? How concerned are you? Maybe more important, how concerned are your constituents?
Oh, our constituents are very concerned. When they see prices at the gas pump going up by over $1 a gallon, it's starting to get cold. People are going to see their heating bills. They anticipate to go up over 50%. I mean, that really hits West Virginians and all Americans right in the pocketbook. And when you go to the grocery store, you see the price of milk and other commodities going up. It's just, I think, very, very, very worrisome, particularly to those folks on fixed incomes or for those who are really sort of at the lower end that has struggled every month to meet those obligations.
How much of it is monetary policy? How much is fiscal? And I guess it's a way of asking, should they be speeding up the time for tapering the buying up at the Fed?
You know, I think if that has the effect of lowering the pace and slowing the pace of inflation, absolutely that should be the way the Fed should be moving. But I think we've got other issues that are at play here. We're holding back our energy resources, the Biden administration is. We've got a supply chain crisis, which is raising the prices and also postponing the delivery of many, many goods and projects. Even these infrastructure projects are going to have trouble getting off the ground if they can't get the equipment to do the work. And I heard that as recently as last night that that's a real issue.
So let's turn to what's going on at Capitol right this moment. We've got a government funding issue that comes up, as I understand, at midnight on Friday. We don't have much time left. Are we going to shut down the government again?
I don't believe we're going to shut the government down. I totally disagree with that as any kind of strategic leverage. To me, it just is a fool's errand. And I think there's other ways to make your point. The point is that's trying to be made is that we disagree with the president's vaccine mandate. I agree with that. But we're going to have an opportunity next week to talk about that. I think we fund the government. We've got all kinds of things coming at people, not just the holidays. We've got Omicron. We've got all kinds of other worries. I think funding our government and whether you're going to get your Social Security check is not something we need to put on somebody's table right now.
Is one of the alternative ways to deal with it the so-called congressional review process? Are you in favor of using that?
Yes, I am, and that's what we're going to be doing next week. We're going to be saying that the president's mandate doesn't stand. We have 50 Republicans who have already joined in this effort. We just need one more vote, and we think that there are folks on the other side of the aisle who are hearing from their constituents that the vaccine mandate is considered unlawful, unproductive, and really economically harmful. We want people to get vaxxed, no doubt about it, but these mandates are, I think, proven to be problematic all across the country.
Funding the government is not the only thing that you all have in front of you before the holidays here. We also have the issue of Build Back Better that the Majority Leader, Mr. Schumer, says he wants to get through. I want to ask one specific question of you that refers actually to your fellow West Virginia senator, that is Joe Manchin, because he has come up and said on the child tax credit, he would be in favor of it if, number one, there was a requirement of work, and number two, it was limited to people with income of $60,000 or less. Do you agree with your fellow West Virginian on that?
Well, I think what we have to look at is the whole thing in context with the child tax credit in there before. I obviously voted to expand that tax credit during certain periods of time, so it's that I wouldn't be necessarily opposed to it. But the bigger problem here, I think, that Senator Manchin hasn't talked about in those specific words is that they only have this costing out for several years, not the 10 years that this bill would actually be into effect. And you know, once the government says, you know, we're going to raise your benefit, it's very hard to take it back. And if that, in fact, is true, we're into the $4 and $5 trillion of cost of all these programs that we really can't afford, shouldn't afford in this inflationary time or any time without having bipartisan discussions on it and where we want to go with it.
Is there any prospect at all of some version of the president's plan getting through this Congress?
Well, you know, I've learned to say never here. So I would say that there are heavy negotiations going on. There is no prospect that any Republicans will join in this effort. I think that the physical infrastructure bill that we passed several weeks ago and signed into law was where our hearts are, where the soul and heart of America is, physical core infrastructure. And I don't think we're interested in running up these large, reckless spending bills and tax bills.
Let me also ask you about whether the Build Back Better is paid for. You mentioned one of the really big issues. We saw it out of the Penn-Wharton budget model, whether you take it over the entire 10 years or just take the first 4 or 5 years. But there's another issue as well that there was a lot of discussion on up on Capitol Hill this week, and that is increasing the assets available to the IRS to increase compliance of certain taxpayers. In general, put aside how many people it would be, how much money it would be, are you in favor of increasing compliance with the tax laws?
You know, here's where I think, and actually I was the appropriator for the IRS for several years. Here's where I think we can make improvements to the IRS that are much needed. They are operating on a very antiquated IT system. Let's up their IT. We do not need to have another tens of thousands of IRS agents looking into people who spend $600 or more in their bank account in order to get tax compliance. If you see the analysis of who that's going to hit and in what amounts, it doesn't go to these enormous amounts of money that the Democrats seem to think they're going to generate from this. I've never thought those numbers were correct, and I don't think, I think we can improve IRS oversight by improving their IT, but I don't believe that we need to put more agents on the street to really harass small business owners and our taxpayers.
And finally, one last one. I mean, you've really worked to be bipartisan on various things, including with Joe Manchin and with others through the years. The debt ceiling, that has been in the past bipartisan. Both parties have gotten together and saying we're to extend the time of the debt ceiling. Are you concerned that if in this time, in this place, the Republicans said, no way, no how, you got to do it on your own, Democrats, that will come back and bite you in future years?
You know, I think that if you look at the discussions that are going on right now between Leader Schumer and Senator McConnell as the Republican leader, they're very quiet about the debt limit right now. I think they're working this out. I think the realization is that there has to be some buy-in on both sides of the aisle here. So I'm going to reserve comment and see how we're going to work that out. I have confidence in both of them to be able to reach a compromise for us so it can be done. Honestly, if I'd been the leader, I would have done it on the rescue package and had it, you know, and called it a day because it's always anticipated. But that wasn't, he didn't ask for my advice, I'll say that.
Yeah, but in the television business, we call that a tease. That was a very good tease. So we're going to be watching to see whether there might be some compromise being worked out with all that silence up there. That's really helpful. Thank you so much. That's Senator Shelley Moore Capito, Republican of West Virginia.